The hammer slipped from my grip for the third time, clattering against the wooden porch step like a death rattle. Rain pelted the farmhouse roof above me, each drop sounding like accusations I wasn't ready to face. It was past midnight, and I was out here fixing steps that didn't need fixing, because the alternative was lying in bed next to my wife Tina, pretending I didn't smell another man's cologne on her skin. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Jack Mallory, 38 years old, former carpenter turned hardware store manager, sitting in the rain like some pathetic country song. My friends used to joke that I could fix anything with duct tape and determination. Turns out, marriages don't respond well to either. The front door creaked open behind me. Tina's silhouette appeared in the doorframe, backlit by our living room lamp. Even disheveled from her late meeting, she looked good. Early 30s, blonde hair that caught light like spun gold, the kind of woman who made men do stupid things. I used to be proud that she'd chosen me. "Jack, what are you doing out here?" I didn't look up from the perfectly fine step I was pretending to repair. "Fixing things. It's what I do." She stepped closer, and that cologne smell hit me again. Expensive stuff. Not the kind they sold at my hardware store. "It's raining. Come inside." "I'm almost done." Tina sighed, that particular sound she made when she thought I was being unreasonable. "We need to talk." "About your meeting that ran until midnight?" "Sure. How's the insurance business these days?" The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. When she finally spoke, her voice had that careful tone she used when she'd rehearsed something. "I don't believe in monogamy anymore, Jack. I'm sleeping with other guys." The hammer slipped again. This time I let it fall. I turned to look at her, rainwater dripping from my hair. In all my mental preparations for this conversation, I'd never expected her to just come out and say it. No tears, no apologies, no explanation. Just a simple declaration, like she was announcing a career change. "Good for you," I said. She blinked. "That's it? That's all you're going to say?" "What do you want me to say, Tina? You've clearly made your decision. I thought you'd fight for us, for me." I stood up slowly, my knees creaking like the old farmhouse. "Fight for what? A woman who's already moved on? I may be stupid, but I'm not that stupid." Her face flushed. This wasn't going according to her script. She'd probably practiced this scene in her car, maybe even discussed it with him. The thought made my stomach turn. I expected more of a reaction. "Sorry to disappoint you. Again." I picked up my tools and walked past her into the house. She followed, closing the door behind us. Our living room looked the same as always. Worn leather couch, coffee table I'd built from reclaimed barnwood, wedding photos on the mantel that now felt like evidence of a crime I'd unknowingly committed. "Jack, please, can we talk about this like adults?" I set my toolbox down and turned to face her. "Like adults. Right. When did this adult conversation start, exactly? When you decided to screw around, or when you decided to tell me about it?" "It's not like that." "Then what's it like, Tina? Enlighten me." She sat on the edge of our couch, hands folded in her lap like a schoolgirl. "I've been thinking about what I want, what makes me happy, and I realized that I need more than what we have. More than 15 years together, more than this house we built, more than me. It's not about you." I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "Of course it's about me. Everything's about me, right? My fault you're unhappy. My fault you need to find happiness in someone else's bed." "That's not what I said." "It's what you meant." Tina stood up, smoothing down her skirt. The same skirt she'd worn to work that morning, now wrinkled in ways that told stories I didn't want to hear. "I'm going to shower," she said. "We can continue this tomorrow when you're ready to be reasonable." Reasonable. as if there was a reasonable response to your wife announcing she was cheating on you like she was announcing a change in dinner plans. I waited until I heard the bathroom door close and the shower start running. Then I walked to our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed we'd shared for over a decade. Her phone was on the nightstand, screen down. The little mirror notification light was blinking. I shouldn't have looked, but 15 years of marriage had earned me the right to know who was destroying my life. The message preview made my blood run cold. Ben S. Last night was wild. Did you delete the video? Ben Sutter, real estate agent, local minor celebrity, drove a Tesla and wore suits that cost more than I made in a month. I'd met him at town functions, shook his hand, listened to him brag about his latest deals. He'd probably been laughing at me the whole time. I scrolled through more messages, each one a knife twist. Photos I didn't open but could guess the content of. Plans for meetings that weren't meetings. References to our bedroom, our bed, our life being used as their playground. The shower was still running. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it and walked to the kitchen. Opened a beer, sat at the table where we'd eaten thousands of meals together, and tried to process the fact that my marriage was over. But as I sat there, something unexpected happened. Instead of the crushing despair I'd expected, I felt something else entirely. Clarity. For the first time in months, maybe years, I could see the situation clearly. Tina wanted her freedom. She could have it. But freedom worked both ways. I pulled out my own phone and scrolled to a number I hadn't called in months. Megan answered on the third ring. "Jack, it's late. Is everything okay?" Megan was Tina's older sister, but they were nothing alike. Where Tina was soft curves and sweet smiles, Megan was sharp angles and sharper wit. She'd never liked Ben, never trusted him. Smart woman. "Want to have dinner tomorrow night?" I asked. A pause. "This is sudden. What's going on?" "Let's just say I'm exploring my options." Another pause, longer this time. "The Lantern, 8 o'clock. "It's a date." I hung up and finished my beer. Upstairs, the shower finally stopped. Soon Tina would come down, maybe try to continue our adult conversation. But I was done talking. From now on, I was going to start acting. The Lantern hadn't changed since I was 21 and stupid. Same scarred wooden bar, same neon beer signs casting red and blue shadows across faces that had seen too much of life's darker side. It was the kind of place where secrets went to die and gossip went to be born. I arrived early, claiming a corner booth where I could watch the door. Shannon, the bartender who'd been here since the Clinton administration, brought me a beer without being asked. "Haven't seen you in a while, Jack. How's married life?" "Educational?" She laughed, a sound like gravel in a cement mixer. "That's one way to put it. You eating tonight? Waiting for someone? Anyone I know?" Megan Turner. Shannon's eyebrows climbed toward her hairline. "Tina's sister? That's interesting." "Is it?" "Honey, in this town, everything's interesting, especially when it involves the Mallory family." Before I could ask what she meant, the door opened and Megan walked in. She'd always been the prettier sister, in my opinion. Taller, with dark hair that moved like water and eyes that missed nothing. She wore jeans and a leather jacket that had seen some miles, and she moved with the confidence of a woman who'd never needed anyone's approval. She slid into the booth across from me, and Shannon appeared instantly with a glass of wine. "The usual, hun?" "Thanks, Shannon." We sat in silence for a moment, sizing each other up. It had been months since we'd talked, maybe longer. Family gatherings were awkward when you suspected your sister-in-law thought you were settling for her younger sister. "So," Megan said finally, "what's this about?" "Tina told me last night that she's sleeping with other people." Megan's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. "She said that? Just like that?" "Just like that. Apparently, she doesn't believe in monogamy anymore." Jesus. Megan set down her glass and leaned back against the booth. I knew she was up to something, but I didn't think she'd be stupid enough to tell you about it. You knew? I suspected. She's been different lately. New clothes, new attitude. And she's been asking me weird questions about independence and following your heart and other bullshit she probably read in some self-help book. The food arrived. Burgers and fries that would clog arteries and solve nothing, but at least they were honest about their intentions. We ate in comfortable silence for a while, the kind of quiet that comes from shared understanding rather than awkwardness. So, what now? Megan asked. Now I figure out what I want. And what do you want? I looked at her across the table, really looked at her. Right now? I want to have dinner with someone who doesn't think I'm a consolation prize. Something shifted in her expression. Jack. I know this is complicated, but complicated seems to be the theme of my life these days. She reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. Her skin was warm, calloused from her work as a freelance photographer. Real hands that did real work, not like Tina's soft insurance office hands that were apparently doing things I didn't want to think about. Okay, she said, but we do this right. No sneaking around, no lies. If we're doing this, we do it in the open. I wouldn't have it any other way. That's when the door opened again, and my evening got a lot more interesting. Tina walked in with her best friend Heather, scanning the room like a general surveying a battlefield. Her eyes found me in the corner booth, traveled to Megan, then to our joined hands on the table. Her face went through several colors in rapid succession. Well, Megan said without turning around. Looks like word travels fast. Tina marched over to our table, Heather trailing behind like a reluctant wingman. Up close, I could see that Tina had put effort into her appearance tonight. New dress, professional makeup, the works. She looked like she was going to a job interview, or maybe a date. What is this? She demanded. Dinner, I said. You know, that thing people do when they're hungry. Don't be smart with me, Jack. What are you doing here with my sister? Having a conversation. You remember conversations, right? Those things we used to have before you decided to expand your social circle? Heather stepped forward, playing her role as Tina's backup. Jack, maybe you should think about what you're doing here. Maybe you should mind your own business, Heather. Megan finally turned around to face her sister. Hello, Tina. You look nice. Going somewhere special? I was meeting someone for drinks, until I heard my husband was here with you. Funny how news travels in a small town, Megan said, almost like people have nothing better to do than watch other people's business. This is my business, he's my husband. Is he? Megan asked. Because from what I hear, you're not too concerned with traditional marriage roles these days. The color drained from Tina's face. What did you tell her? I stood up, fishing a 20 out of my wallet and dropping it on the table. I told her the truth. Novel concept, I know. Jack, we need to talk, privately. We talked last night, you made your position clear, now I'm making mine clear. I took Megan's hand and helped her out of the booth. She stood gracefully, never breaking eye contact with her sister. Tina, she said softly, you can't have it both ways. You can't demand freedom for yourself and expect Jack to sit home waiting for you to decide what you want. This isn't what I meant. Then maybe you should have been more specific about what you did mean. We walked toward the door, leaving Tina and Heather standing by our empty booth. The entire bar was watching now, conversations dying as we passed. By tomorrow, the whole town would know that Jack Mallory was having dinner with his sister-in-law while his wife was out doing God knows what with God knows who. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. Megan stopped beside her car, a beat-up Honda that had character if not beauty. That was fun, she said, just getting started. She looked at me with something that might have been admiration. You know, I always thought Tina was the lucky one, getting the good guy, the stable life, the whole package. But maybe I had it backwards. Maybe you did. She leaned up and kissed me, soft and quick. but not so quick that anyone watching from the bar's windows would miss it. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "Call me tomorrow?" "Count on it." I watched her drive away, then got in my own truck. Through the bar's windows, I could see Tina still standing where we'd left her, Heather's hand on her shoulder in consolation or restraint. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You have no idea what you're getting into." I typed back, "Try me." Then I drove home to the empty farmhouse and started planning my next move. Tina wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that I'd been playing by her rules for 15 years. Now it was time to play by mine. The hardware store on Tuesday morning felt like neutral territory, a place where I could think clearly among the familiar smells of wood stain and metal polish. I'd been managing Fletcher's hardware for 3 years now, ever since my carpentry business went under during the recession. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest, and it gave me access to tools and knowledge that were about to become very useful. Rick Morrison found me in the electrical aisle, organizing outlet covers that didn't need organizing. Rick had been my best friend since high school, a heavyset guy with quick wit and quicker loyalty. He worked nights at the Lantern, which made him the unofficial keeper of the town's secrets. "Heard you caused quite a stir last night," he said, leaning against the shelving unit. "News travels fast. Faster when it involves the Mallory family drama. Shannon said Tina looked like she'd been slapped with a wet fish." "Good. Maybe now she knows how I felt." Rick studied my face. "You doing okay, man? I mean, really okay?" I set down the outlet covers and looked at him. Rick had been there through my dad's death, my business failing, all the rough patches that life throws at you. If anyone deserved the truth, it was him. "She's been cheating on me. With Ben Sutter." Rick's expression darkened. "That slick-haired piece of garbage? How long?" "I don't know. Months, maybe longer. She told me Sunday night that she doesn't believe in monogamy anymore. Just like that, like she was announcing a career change." "Jesus Christ, what are you going to do?" "I'm going to give her exactly what she asked for. Freedom. And Megan?" "Megan's a bonus. A very attractive bonus who happens to hate Ben Sutter as much as I'm starting to." Rick grinned. "This could get interesting." "It already is." The bell above the front door chimed, and I looked up to see Ben Sutter himself walking in. Speak of the devil. He was dressed in his usual uniform, expensive suit, perfect hair, smile that probably cost more than my truck. He moved through the store like he owned it, nodding at customers who knew his name from his real estate signs scattered around town. "Jack!" he called out, approaching with his hand extended. "Good to see you, buddy." I looked at his hand, but didn't take it. "Ben, what can I help you with?" His smile faltered slightly. "Actually, I need some advice about a property I'm showing. Old farmhouse needs some electrical work. Thought you might have some insights." "I'm sure you did." Rick stepped back, sensing the tension. Ben's eyes flicked between us, trying to read the situation. "Is there a problem, Jack?" "No problem at all. What kind of electrical work?" For the next 10 minutes, I listened to Ben describe a house that probably didn't exist, asking questions about wiring and circuits while his cologne filled my nostrils. The same cologne I'd smelled on my wife. Every word out of his mouth felt like sandpaper on an open wound. "Thanks for the advice," he said finally. "I'll let you know how it goes." "You do that." He left, and Rick whistled low. That was painful to watch. Just wait. It gets better. That afternoon, I closed the store early and drove to the town library. Mrs. Patterson, the librarian who'd been there since the Paleozoic era, helped me set up on one of their computers. I told her I was researching home security systems, which wasn't entirely a lie. What I was actually doing was learning about GPS tracking, cloud storage, and the various ways that modern technology could be used to gather information. Not illegal surveillance. I wasn't planning to break any laws. But if someone left their information accessible, well, that wasn't my fault. Tina had always been careless with passwords. She used the same one for everything. Our wedding anniversary plus her maiden name. It took me about 10 minutes to access her cloud storage account. What I found there made my stomach turn. Photos, videos, messages, a digital record of her affair that went back 6 months. Ben's lake house featured prominently, along with locations I recognized around town. There was even a video filmed in our bedroom, in our bed, while I was at work. I forced myself to look through it all, cataloging dates and times, building a timeline of betrayal that was more thorough than I'd imagined. This wasn't a recent decision or a moment of weakness. This was a calculated, ongoing deception that had been happening under my nose for half a year. But as I scrolled through the evidence, I also found something else. Ammunition. Ben Sutter, it turned out, was not as discreet as he thought. The messages revealed details about his business practices that were questionable at best, his treatment of other women that was appalling, and his general character that was far from the polished image he presented to the town. I copied everything to a flash drive and cleared the browser history. Mrs. Patterson waved goodbye as I left, probably thinking I'd spent the afternoon researching alarm systems. If only she knew. That evening, I met Megan at her apartment on the other side of town. She lived in a converted barn that she'd turned into a photography studio and living space. The walls were covered with her work, landscapes, portraits, street photography that captured the soul of small-town Maine in ways that made you see familiar places with new eyes. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, handing me a beer. "Worse, I've seen the truth." I told her about the cloud storage, the timeline, the extent of Tina's deception. Megan listened without interruption, her expression growing darker with each detail. 6 months, she said finally. "That explains a lot." "What do you mean?" "The family barbecue in July. Remember? Ben was there and I caught him and Tina having what looked like an intense conversation by the garage. When I asked her about it later, she said they were discussing insurance for one of his properties." "Insurance. Right. There's something else, Jack. Something I probably should have told you years ago." I set down my beer. "What?" "Ben and I have history. High school history. He was a senior when I was a junior, and we dated for a few months. It ended badly." "How badly?" "He cheated on me with 3 different girls, then spread rumors that I was crazy and possessive when I confronted him about it. Destroyed my reputation for the rest of high school. The pieces clicked into place. That's why you never liked him. That's why I never trusted him. Leopards don't change their spots, Jack. He's the same manipulative bastard he was 20 years ago." We sat in silence for a moment, processing the implications. Then Megan stood up and walked to her desk, pulling out a manila folder. "Since we're sharing secrets," she said, "you should know that I've been keeping tabs on Ben Sutter for a long time. Call it unfinished business." She handed me the folder. Inside were photographs, documents, printouts of online reviews and complaints. A comprehensive dossier on Ben's business practices, his personal life, his weaknesses. Jesus, Megan, how long have you been collecting this? 2 years. Ever since he started showing up at family functions, sniffing around Tina. I knew he was going to hurt her eventually. I just didn't think she'd be stupid enough to let him. I looked through the documents. Property deals that had gone bad, clients who'd been overcharged, women who'd been used and discarded. Ben Sutter wasn't just a cheater. He was a predator. "What were you planning to do with this?" I wasn't sure, but now I know. She sat beside me on the couch, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something subtle and real, not the cloying sweetness that Tina had started wearing. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" she asked. "That depends. Are you thinking about destroying Ben Sutter's life?" "Among other things." She leaned closer, and I could see flecks of gold in her dark eyes. "What do you say, Jack? Want to partner up?" I thought about Tina at home, probably texting with Ben, planning their next rendezvous. I thought about the video in our bedroom, the casual way she'd announced her infidelity, the 15 years of marriage that she'd thrown away like yesterday's newspaper. "Partners," I said. Megan smiled, and it was like watching a predator bare its teeth. "This is going to be fun." Ben Sutter's Tesla was parked outside his real estate office Wednesday morning, gleaming white paint reflecting the autumn sun like a beacon of smugness. I'd been watching from across the street for 20 minutes, nursing a coffee and waiting for the right moment. The right moment came when Ben emerged from the diner next door, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing with his free hand like he was conducting an orchestra of his own importance. He was dressed in another expensive suit, this one charcoal gray with a tie that probably cost more than most people's weekly grocery budget. I crossed the street and approached his car. The Tesla was unlocked. Typical Ben, too arrogant to worry about theft in our small town. I popped the hood and got to work. 20 minutes later, I was back at Fletcher's Hardware, restocking screws and waiting for the show to begin. Rick found me around noon, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "Did you hear about Ben Sutter's car trouble?" he asked. "Can't say I have. Apparently his fancy electric car won't charge. Had to call a tow truck to take it to the dealership in Portland. But that's not the best part. There's more. When he tried to clean his windshield before the tow truck arrived, the washer fluid sprayed fish guts all over the glass. And when he turned on the air conditioning to get rid of the smell, glitter shot out of every vent." I tried to look surprised. "Glitter?" "Craft glitter. The fine kind that gets into everything and never comes out." Shannon said he looked like a very angry fairy when he stomped into the lantern for lunch. "Huh, that's unfortunate." There was a note on his dashboard, too. "Next time, use protection. On the car, too." Rick was watching my face carefully, looking for any sign of guilt or satisfaction. I kept my expression neutral. "Sounds like someone has it out for Ben." "Sounds like it. Any idea who might want to mess with his car?" "Could be anyone. Ben's made a lot of enemies in this town." That afternoon, I got a call from Megan. She was trying not to laugh, but failing. "Did you hear about Ben's car?" Rick filled me in. "Sounds like someone's having a bad day." "It gets better. I just ran into Heather at the grocery store. Apparently Ben called Tina in a panic, convinced that you were responsible for his car troubles." "Me? Why would he think that?" "Because you're the only person in town who knows enough about cars to disable a Tesla's charging system without causing permanent damage." "That's circumstantial at best." "That's what I told Heather. I also told her that you spent last night at my place, working on my kitchen sink, in case anyone asks." "Did I fix it?" "Oh, you fixed it very thoroughly, multiple times." The innuendo in her voice made me smile. Glad I could help. "Speaking of help, I have some information you might find interesting. I did some digging into Ben's client list, and it turns out he's been overcharging people for months, inflating property values, adding bogus fees, the whole 9 yards. "How do you know this?" "Because I've been talking to his former clients. Amazing how willing people are to share when they think they've been ripped off." "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that information like that might be interesting to the right people. His boss, for instance, or the local newspaper. That seems like the civic-minded thing to do. Doesn't it? I'll make some calls this afternoon." That evening, I drove out to Ben's lake house. It was a modern monstrosity perched on the shore like a glass and steel middle finger pointed at the water. The kind of place that screamed money but whispered insecurity. Ben's backup car, a BMW that was almost as pretentious as the Tesla, was parked in the driveway. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see him pacing around the living room, phone pressed to his ear. Even from a distance, he looked agitated. I parked down the road and walked back, staying in the tree line. The house was isolated enough that I could get close without being seen. Close enough to hear raised voices through the thin walls. "I don't care what it costs," Ben was saying. "I need that car fixed by tomorrow. I have 3 showings this week, and I can't drive around in a BMW like some kind of peasant. A pause while whoever he was talking to responded. No, I don't know who did it. But I have my suspicions. Jack Mallory has been acting strange lately, and he's got the skills to pull something like this off. Another pause. His wife? Tina's fine, she's handling the situation. But her husband is becoming a problem, and I need it dealt with. I'd heard enough. I made my way back to the truck and drove home, processing what I'd learned. Ben was paranoid, which was good. Paranoid people made mistakes, and he was putting pressure on Tina to handle the situation, which meant their affair was causing stress in their perfect little bubble. Back at the farmhouse, I found Tina in the kitchen, making dinner like nothing had changed. She was wearing a new dress, something I'd never seen before, and her hair was styled differently. She looked good, I had to admit. But she also looked guilty. "How was work?" she asked without looking up from the stove. "Interesting. Ben Sutter had some car trouble today." Her hand froze on the wooden spoon she was using to stir whatever was in the pot. "Oh? What kind of trouble?" "Someone sabotaged his Tesla, disabled the charging system, filled the windshield washer with fish guts, rigged the air conditioning to blow glitter." She turned around slowly, her face carefully neutral. "That's terrible. Do they know who did it?" "Ben seems to think I did it." "Did you?" I looked at her for a long moment, studying the face I'd woken up next to for 15 years. She was still beautiful, but there was something different now, something calculating in her eyes that I'd never noticed before. "What do you think, Tina?" "I think you're not the type of person to vandalize someone's car." "You're right. I'm not. But I'm also not the type of person to sit quietly while my wife sleeps around." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "Jack, save it. We both know what this is. The question is what we're going to do about it. I thought we could work something out. An arrangement." "An arrangement? Like what?" "Like adults who care about each other but have different needs." I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "You mean like you get to screw Ben Sutter while I pretend to be okay with it?" "It doesn't have to be like that." "Then what does it have to be like?" She turned back to the stove, stirring faster now. "I don't know. But I know I don't want to lose you." Funny way of showing it. This doesn't have to change anything between us. "Tina, it's already changed everything." My phone buzzed with a text from Megan. "Ben's boss wants to meet with him first thing tomorrow morning. Something about client complaints." I typed back, "Excellent timing." Tina was watching me text, her face growing paler by the second. "Who are you texting?" "A friend." "What kind of friend?" "The kind who doesn't lie to me." She set down the spoon and faced me fully. "Is this about Megan? Because if you think you can hurt me by dating my sister, this isn't about hurting you, Tina. This is about moving on." "With my sister?" "With someone who respects me. She's using you to get back at me. Maybe, or maybe she just sees something in me that you forgot was there." Tina's eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't moved. Not anymore. Tears were just another manipulation, another tool in her arsenal. "I made a mistake, Jack. Can't we work through this?" "You made a choice. Now I'm making mine." I walked toward the door, grabbing my jacket from the hook. "Where are you going?" "Out." "To see her?" "To see someone who wants to see me." I left Tina standing in the kitchen and drove to Megan's place. She was waiting for me with wine and a smile that promised better things than tears and manipulation. "How did it go?" she asked. She wants to work out an arrangement. "What kind of arrangement?" "The kind where she gets everything she wants and I get to pretend I'm okay with it." Megan poured 2 glasses of wine and handed me one. "And what did you tell her?" "I told her I was moving on." "Good, because phase 2 starts tomorrow." "What's phase 2? She smiled, and it was like watching a chess master contemplate her next move. "Phase 2 is where we stop playing defense and start playing offense.